Hey, everybody. I am Zach, one of the hosts here at the Random Redshirt podcast. Welcome. And Chris is the other host. What's up, Chris?
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour around the world. Zach, great to see you, my great friend. Again, Erica, thank you so much for joining us. So wonderful to see you.
Oh,
So
so
thank
great to
you.
see you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bonjour.
that's right. Welcome back to the podcast. For those of you watching and listening all over the interwebs, Chris, and around the globe, we appreciate it. As always, be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram and our YouTube channel if you're just listening to us on the podcast platforms. But yeah, we're welcoming Erica LaRose back with us to the podcast. She's been on with us before, and we get an opportunity now just to kind of dive into her career and her work on the Shuttlepod Show. She has a background in music, dance, and modeling. She's acting, writing, and producing film and theater. We also know her as the host and one of the hosts of the Shuttlepod Show. So again, thank you, Erica, for coming back on with us.
Oh, thank you guys. Lovely intro.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
There.
So I want to kind of go back a little bit and start out with, because we like to do this with our guests a lot. I want to start with way back in the very beginning. What got you into acting and modeling and getting into show business in general?
A great question. So I started modeling in high school. I think it was just something that would happen naturally. My mom was trying to get me into it when I was a kid. And it just like we just didn't pursue it really. Both of my parents modeled, so kind of like, runs in the family, I guess. And I wanted to go to modeling school. So in high school, I went to a popular school called John Casablancas, where they teach you how to like walk the runway, like sit up straight, do your makeup. They had a commercial class. So that was how I got into modeling. So that was in high school. And acting is something that I always wanted to do. And in articles I've written, I talk about this. I was really terrified of it. And I've thought about this a lot. And I think it's because like in dancing, your body's your instrument, and modeling, similar. And I played the piano, and the piano is your instrument, but when you're acting, it's like literally everything of you have to give and be vulnerable. So I think that's what scared me a little bit, but I wanted to do it so terribly. But I was shy as a kid, and I was an only child, and I think that played into it a bit. And so my mom also knew that. So when I was in college, she introduced me to a director that she was friends with, and he cast me while I was in college. So right when I got out of college, I did my first movie. And yeah, after that, moved to Los Angeles.
So
Is that an oh, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
Oh yeah, was there a moment like you say like, there's that feeling of fear and terror of like going into that acting? Was there a moment where you felt like, oh, I'm getting over this now, or I feel more comfortable, or how did that kind of?
Yeah, I think that the moment I did it, I felt so much more free, right? It's like I've been holding on to this for so long. And he didn't have me audition because he knew me, he knew my mom. So he just linked me up with one of the other actors to like rehearse. And I guess that was a nice way to go in, because auditioning is a whole other animal.
Right.
And then I had my first audition in Connecticut after that movie, actually. And that was another different kind of freeing experience, because it like, not only are you putting yourself out there, but you feel like you're being judged, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I forget about that time sometimes, but that was like, I was like, whoa, like I just went in there and gave my all. And they were like, how did you do that? For me, it was like, before I even got into classes, I think there was something really raw about like releasing all of that was inside me that I had not yet. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It was, I think that came out probably in my work. Yeah.
Because I was going to say, I was like, is that a natural progression to go from modeling to acting? Because it doesn't seem like it is. Or is there like some kind of overlap on skills and things you learn in modeling that you then carry over with you into acting?
It was interesting when I was learning how to walk the runway, and I had gigs walking the runway, which I'll talk about, but you really have to like kind of you do put on a character, and you're in the moment. You have to be in the moment, and you can't just like lazily walk around. It's like you are performing, as he said. But they are very different. In fact, we're in such a slash culture now where you could be like actress, producer, model, writer, whatever. Like you can be 10 things and everyone's okay with it. But I felt back then when I was transitioning that I didn't, from modeling to acting, that I couldn't do both. Like I stopped modeling because I thought it was going to get in the way of my acting. So I feel like as much as they have similarities with the performance, I do feel like they're very, very different as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. You still play piano?
Well, I can, right? Like when I go home for Christmas, I have all my favorite books there, and I'll play. But I would love to get back into it, and like enhance my skills as a piano player, because I miss it terribly. That's something that runs in my family too, on my dad's side. So feels like home for me,
Yeah, it runs. It's in my family. I don't play, but my family plays, so I miss listening to it.
Yeah. Well, like as a kid, I guess I had already started playing, but my dad would play for me, and he was fantastic, like so good. And I would just dance around while he was playing for like hours. And there's something about just listening and being around it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, growing up as a kid, I know you said you were kind of shy, but is performing in general something that you wanted to do when you got older?
When I got older, yeah, for sure. Like, I always wanted to perform, but I was shy. I mean, I guess that's interesting because I had a lot of recitals, and I didn't feel, once I got up there, I felt fine, but there was a lot of, the nerves would come up beforehand. Yeah. I think as much as I wanted to perform, getting over those nerves were just as much of a desire for me, right? It's like there was this thing that I was like, I want to create and perform, but there's this thing inside me that's I have to get over. So that was really important for me. Yeah. Do you guys play anything?
I played the violin a long time ago, but so it would take a long time for me to get back into it. And then through my family, piano is a huge part of our lives. So listening to, family members play piano was really special. And then just seeing them, be able to perform and to play and kind of express themselves through the piano is wonderful. And then just hearing them practice is wonderful. So
yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, I was not musically inclined growing up, singing or playing instruments. It wasn't until I got to high school, actually, when I started doing theater, that I started to learn how to sing, because we had a great voice coach in theater that helped me, which eventually led to me being Danny Zuko my senior year, and I had to know how to sing for that part.
Right.
And then it wasn't until college, and I had a bunch of buddies in my dorm that knew how to play guitar, and they taught me a couple chords, and then I just kind of became self-taught. So I play acoustic and electric guitar.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
I had a desire to learn guitar, and I started to teach myself like you. My mom gave me a guitar during college as a gift. And once you learn how to play the piano, it's kind of easy to translate it to other instruments. I feel like that's such a good instrument to start with. So it was easy to kind of teach myself, but that faded away. But that's cool. You brought something up that made me think about my time in elementary school and performing, because I really wanted to be sing as well. And I auditioned, and she was so mean to me.
Oh,
yeah. And I I was so upset. I went home so sad. My mom got really upset that I was sad because of how this woman, treated me as a kid.
yeah.
And she called the school, and the next day I'm being dragged out of class to go to select chorus, even though I didn't get in. So it was like, not only did I not get in, and this woman was nasty to me, but my mother, forced the issue. And for me, I was embarrassed, right? I was like, no, I'm not going. I don't want to go to something that I didn't earn, or like not earn, but like, you know, if I wasn't accepted, I wasn't accepted.
Right.
And so I think that also played into another reason why maybe it took me so long to kind of get back, you know, and follow my dreams of acting and stuff, because it was a little traumatizing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Mama Bear came out to
yeah,
protect the cub.
she had good intentions, but I
Yeah.
didn't like that. It's like, I want to, you know, I want
Yeah,
to,
you want to earn it. You want to
I
earn
want
it.
to
Yeah.
earn it. Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
she's
Yeah.
very protective.
So what was so obviously a lot of people know you from Shuttlepod Show, right? And the hosting that you do there, and you do a wonderful job of that. And we love watching you on there. And I guess one of the questions that I think maybe not everybody knows is, how did that whole thing come about? Like, how did you get involved in the Shuttlepod Show, and where did that start?
Good question. And so feel free to chime in, Mark, whenever, if you have a nice comment. But I was, Mark and I were talking about podcasts, and he was creating a studio. And he had a bunch of different ideas. So I started going into the office that he worked at and learning about podcasting. And I learned the switcher and you know, a bunch of different things. And I think we
trying to turn her into a utility player.
it's interesting to learn. And then I was like, you know, I really don't want to do the switcher. Not my channel.
Switcher is a live video editor.
The live video editor,
So
yeah.
you can switch between multiple cameras.
Yeah. And you know, I think one day Mark just came up to me and was like, Connor wants me to produce a podcast, and do you want to be a part of it? I mean, I think it was really that simple.
Yeah, Connor and I were talking about it. I really wanted to do a podcast because of COVID. We were in COVID, and I wanted to do something that was different. Connor and I were hanging out together a lot because we both had to do the COVID tests all the time for work, because we're both in the entertainment industry. So we could hang out with each other. And we decided to do it. And I talked to Erica and I said, you should be on camera because you're friends with Connor already. And you can talk with anyone, and you know, you would cut the boy energy down significantly.
Yeah. So it was really like, you know, there's gonna be 2 male hosts, right? And you know, I was already working in the studio. I've already worked with Connor on a movie at this point. So I had known him. And you know, love Connor. And so yeah, it just kind of happened, you know, and we started talking about segments and brainstorming ideas. And I mean, it's really interesting to think about how much the show has evolved from like the very first test episode to where we are now. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah,
and
it really is.
While a lot of things are different, some things are the same, you know. It's a conversation. But yeah, that's how it started. Mark and I went on a road trip, and he would be driving, and I would start making lists of things we would have to do. And he's like, oh, and write this down. And so like I still have it, just like a list of everything that needed to be done before Shuttlepod was even a thing.
You guys should frame that and put it up on the wall in your studio. That'd be kind of cool. Like that's like the groundwork, the ground floor of the show.
Yeah, I think we were moving your parents.
Oh, we were driving across the country.
We were driving across the country, and yeah, we hadn't even done a test episode, nothing. And yeah, so I should print that out. That's a really good idea.
That'd be cool. I think that would be neat to frame. That's part of the heritage and history of the show, right?
Yeah. So it's been quite the journey. And I mean, this is the longest I've been involved with the same project consistently. You know, it's like you do a movie and it's over, you know, or I mean, I made a movie and, you know, maybe it took a couple of years or a year and a half or something to like go from the first idea to, you know, putting it in the festival. So but it's different, you know, it's not like you're filming on a weekly basis. Right. And like there's no end to it really until you decide until you decide there is, you know, right. Or it evolves into something else. so it's really interesting. I've never been involved with something like this. And I did do a radio show, which, again, there's really no end until you decide to end it, which after a year, I was like, I really appreciate the opportunity, but I'm moving on.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So the difference between a project that will end in a kind of a short, finite amount of time, and then something that you're doing that kind of lasts like as long as you like it, right? They're totally different. But does that, in your mind, like being a performer and being a creator and your creativity, does that, with a long project like that, are you able to just come up with like a lot of different crazy ideas, and how does that feel?
Well, for like Shuttlepod Show, for example, I mean, we're kind of structured at the moment, but I don't think that means we can't bring in new ideas, right? We do try a lot of new things, and I've certainly over time have had a lot of ideas. And what's interesting about this show and in Star Trek in general is the community is so dedicated and like passionate, and so the creativity and goes beyond just shooting the show. It goes into how do you interact with the fans outside of the show? What kind of events are we going to do, and how do we keep people involved and engaged even when we're not airing a show or filming? It's just as important. And so I mean, this is the first time that I've have so many fans reaching out to me, and I can't do it as much as I used to, but I'll like sit down for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes a week and just respond to everyone and say hello and try to answer their questions. And it's really sweet, to have that interaction with people who are so grateful to watch what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, your guys' show makes such great content, and I don't want to call it the interviews you guys do, but for lack of better words, right? The interview you guys do, it's that discussion, right? It's that tone that you guys set in the show of, hey, we're just sitting around hanging out, having a discussion. And that's that kind of laid back sort of approach, which makes it really fun to listen to.
Yeah, we call them conversations.
Yeah, like you say, we call them conversations and not interviews. And it's fun. I see Mark correct people randomly, like, no, conversation.
Yeah, that's for interview is not the right word, but I think you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, and I think the reason why he does that is because of what you just said. It is what makes the show stand out. So thank you for that feedback. It's nice to hear that.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Chris and I try to do as well, Chris, is that I label it as an interview for the purposes of like the actual episode or whatever, but it's not really an interview. We're just hanging out, like talking to people, getting to know them and learning about their careers and their lives. And so that's kind of the approach we've tried to take.
Yeah, cool. I feel like a lot of podcasts kind of do that, right? Like a standard interview feels a bit more rigid and but you guys do a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, I am curious. And I know I've asked this to you before when we've talked, but what's something that you've learned, or what's a couple of things you've learned about yourself during the process of making the show, of making Shuttlepod Show?
Well, I always considered myself to be a pretty resilient person, but I guess I didn't really know I was like this resilient, right? Like we've been doing this for a couple years from nothing to what it is now. And it's not like we have this big studio behind us or anything, or like
it's literally us.
It's literally us. And sure, I've created films and have done things, but this has been like, the saying, like blood, sweat, and tears, like it has been that way. And it's all worth it because of, the community we form and the feedback we get and how much this content means to people, and the influence we have. I mean, it's like I cried at STLV because I was just like, I don't know, I was asked a question and it had me like reminiscing. And I was just so overwhelmed with like happiness because of like the fans that were standing there, you know, watching our live show at STLV. It was really cool. So yeah, I guess I learned I was even more resilient than I thought I was. Because there is a lot of ups and downs producing something like this.
Yeah.
From nothing to what it is now. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
That has to be like a tremendous amount of, I think, self-satisfaction, like knowing like you guys created this, right? You guys are on the journey and started the journey, and this is the creation. And then and then confidence knowing that, hey, look what we created, look what we can do. That has to be incredible.
It is. And you're so busy that you don't really, like, at least for me, I don't sit around reminiscing, thinking about that all the time, right? It's conversations like this and like moments where, you know, where we wrap the season and you're kind of like, whoa, like what just happened, right? And it is like, it's a phenomenal feeling. Yeah.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
So what aspirations in the future besides Shuttlepod Show? What other types of aspirations in the future do you have in the industry? What are some of the types of things you're either looking to get into or are maybe have potentially planned that you can't talk about yet? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, well, you know, I miss acting. It's not that I don't do it. I just, you know, with
the show has consumed our lives.
The show has consumed our lives a bit. There's COVID happened, and then the strike happened. And I was talking about with someone the other day. It's like there was like a year in between, but you know, I mean, thankfully the show has been around to allow us to continue to be creative through all this. But yeah, between, you know, growing pains of the show, these things happening in the world, and I don't know, just life in itself, it's like I haven't been acting as much as I usually do, and I do miss that. I would love to be on a Star Trek show, like after learning about it and watching it, I'm like that. And I've done a sci-fi short film before, and I really enjoyed it. And I mean, that would be such a great opportunity. Mark and I are working on some independent film projects, and you know, some of these types of roles would be something that I could have so much fun with. So like, you know, just doing an independent film, producing it as well, and being able to like be behind and in front of the camera and just like be creative. That's something I'm really excited about. I also really, now that I've had a few hosting gigs, I've come up with a few different ideas of projects that I'd like to do in the future. So kind of like in the really beginning stages of that, but there is one in particular that I'm very excited about. So it'd be more of a lifestyle show,
Nice.
where I'd also love to like bring on celebrities and you know, have conversations as well. So yeah, acting, more hosting, and you know, I wrote a film and I've created a film before, and I do enjoy like the writing process. I think I would love to write and create another movie one day. And I would really like to try directing. So
Really?
yeah, I would.
I thought that would drive you crazy.
No, I love communicating with people. And like, yeah, I don't know. I just, it's something that like in my film that I made, it was called 165 Star. I created the film. It was written by my collaborator, and during times where, and I acted in it, I was one of the leads. And so, but there were times where, because I knew the content so well and what I wanted to produce, that I was like, I stepped in as a director, because I was like, I think this needs to be done differently. Like, and I didn't even know I was doing that till I was done. I was like, oh, I kind of like helped direct a little, and it was really gratifying to do that. So I'd like to explore that a little bit. Yeah. I guess that's a lot of things I have to do.
No, I mean that's
Yeah. I gotta, make my hosting show, act, produce, write something, direct something, get on a Star Trek show.
No, I think that's great because, like, I don't know about you, Chris. For me, like in my professional life, I found that the more things that you can do, right, the more skill sets you learn, the more valuable you become, the more useful you become, and I think that makes you a really valuable asset for whatever organization you're a part of. Or in case of show business, that makes you unique in the sense of, hey, I can do this, I can do that, and it maybe opens certain doors up that you might not have had before.
Yeah, this is very true. And Mark's a good example of that. He's directed, right? You've written quite a few things, and you're a great writer and producer, and
mostly I write and produce.
Yeah, and so he's inspiring to be around. And someone who was on the show recently, Robbie Duncan McNeil, was also very inspiring. I mean, just to go from being an actor to like being like, get me off the I mean, that's not how I feel, but like, I want to be behind the camera, and like really moved to producing and enjoyed that kind of experience through a creative lens. It was really interesting to hear him talk about all of that.
Yeah, he's an incredible director.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's great. You're exploring all of the kind of the roles and parts of being a creator, and then there's no reason to silo like yourself into like one part of creation, right? It's all connected, the creation. So
I think what happened was, like, I spent 5 years in Brooklyn. I left Los Angeles because I wanted to get out of here. And during my time in Brooklyn is when people really started making their own work. Like everyone's like, you got to make your own work. You got to make your own work. There was a time period where like creating your own content was becoming huge, and managers and agents and casting would tell you, if you're not getting anything, you have to go out and just make it yourself. And so it was kind of that whole mentality that got me creating things. Really, I was like, well, I'm not good at just sitting around, so it's like I'm just gonna go make it myself.
I'm not good at sitting around.
I'm not good at sitting around. Thank God I've gotten into some shows that have just like, I binged and it just like forced me to sit down.
Yeah, like 70,000 hours of Star Trek, for example, right?
Yeah, like that. I know that was one of your questions that you gave me earlier, but like, what's your favorite TV show? But we binged Barry, and that was so fun because it was such a great show, and I was just like, I just didn't want to get off the bed.
Yeah,
I'm just not good at like doing nothing.
Yeah, well, hey, there's nothing wrong with keeping busy, right? The idea of keeping your mind active and engaged and doing things and creating, and that I think is really important. So speaking of that, little segue, I guess. You've watched a lot of Star Trek since Shuttlepod Show started, right? And I'm not going to necessarily force you to name one, but you can if you want to. Of all the Trek you've watched so far, and this is not a setup question, but of all the Trek you've watched so far, has there been a show that stuck with you more, or one that maybe is your favorite?
Yeah, it's a really hard question. Like, now that I've watched a lot of Trek, it is hard to say like what your favorite is. I mean, Enterprise was my gateway Trek, and after watching Enterprise, I didn't like watching, like, it felt like weird watching the other shows. I was like, this is not Enterprise, and but then I realized that, like, once I started really getting into it, like, I was like, oh, I get this. Like, we watched a lot of The Next Generation, and then that became, oh, this is not Enterprise. Or like, when I would watch Enterprise, I'm like, oh, this is not The Next Generation. Like, they're just not the same. For some reason, Picard, even though I still, was learning about Star Trek and its history and the storylines throughout time, for some reason that show had me really engaged. And I liked Captain Liam Shaw. I liked Todd Stashwick's performance a lot because it felt so different than everyone else's.
Very different.
And I was drawn to that, right? It was just like there was something really, I don't even know how to describe it, like unique and natural at the same time. And yeah, it was really interesting to watch him. And so I loved Picard, but gosh, I like a lot of the shows. But there's something about the original series that I really enjoy, just because that's where it all started. I don't know, it's like for some reason I feel really like relaxed, and like when I'm watching episodes from the original series, there's just kind of like there's something nostalgic about it, even though I didn't watch it as a kid. And yeah, I don't know. Did I answer your question? I feel like this is Connor's Island where like I can't answer the question.
No, I mean it's okay if you don't have a favorite. That's fine.
Yeah.
I just was curious if there a particular one of the shows maybe had stuck with you more than the other. And it sounds like maybe Enterprise, because that was your gateway, but also a toss a little bit.
Yeah.
Picard.
Yeah. Picard was great. I mean, as everyone talks about, especially when the cast came in season 3, it was like very cool to see. I mean, that was amazing. But yeah. What's your favorite Deep Space Nine? Yeah.
Yes. Mine's Deep Space Nine. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Just so you know, Zach is always lobbying for, I think he's probably telepathically trying to get you to say Deep Space Nine is your favorite. Probably.
Chris, if I had that kind of power, I would be a very wealthy man.
We've watched Deep Space Nine quite a bit, but I should probably watch a bit more of it. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll convert. What about you?
Mine is Next Generation as like my favorite. So yeah.
I love watching The Next Generation. I feel like that's on the TV a lot.
Well, I started watching it from the beginning again. And sort of cycle.
Yeah. I love all the characters on that show.
Yeah. TNG is the gold standard for the franchise. It really is. I mean,
is it?
Like for me, like Chris and I've talked about this before, but for me personally, like I grew up on TNG. It really wasn't until like right when I started college that I got into Deep Space Nine, and you could watch the whole show from beginning to end on DVD. And that's when I fell in love with it, because that show is meant to be watched from beginning to end, through versus just cherry picking random episodes.
Yeah. Maybe I'll watch Deep Space Nine from beginning to end.
It worked, Chris. It worked.
See,
You're right.
And then we can have a chat about it.
Yeah. Okay. That would be great. I'm actually going back and rewatching Enterprise from beginning to end. I'm just at the very end of season 2. It's been, I don't know how many months I've been doing it slowly, but because I haven't watched Enterprise beginning to end in so long, and it's just, that show is so good.
Yeah.
So good.
I actually still haven't seen a lot of the movies, but we watched the very first.
We watched the motion picture the other day.
Star Trek film the other day, and I was like, I mean, it's a good movie, right? It's a classic, but it's just, I was like really, it just felt like a really long episode to me. Is that bad to say?
For Star Trek the motion picture?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I was like, oh, that's it? Okay, well, cool. It was good. I don't know. Have you guys watched it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like I think you got to be in the right frame of mind. It's like 2000. It's like watching 2001.
Yeah. Or Blade Runner even.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be. You mentioned that before, Chris, about being in the right frame of mind to watch Blade Runner. It's just it's the styling of the movie. It's the way it's made. I think a lot of people would argue Wrath of Khan is probably the greatest Star Trek movie of all time.
Yeah.
And I know that's your favorite movie, right, Chris? Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, we don't need to argue about it. It just is the greatest like Star Trek movie.
What was Khan's episode called again? Space Seed, right? Space Seed. Yeah. I mean, it's episodes like that from the original series, like the ones we've been watching, that I'm like, this is a cool show. Like the original series is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it stood the test of time. There's things about it that haven't, right? I mean, because of the era it was made in, but in the show, the themes, everything, that stuff has stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I was not able to go to Las Vegas this year. I know was this the first Star Trek convention that you had been to? Well,
Yes.
both you and Mark, or just
Yes.
wow.
Both of us.
Not counting our live event in February.
The first one we've
Okay.
ever been to is one we
It
made.
was ours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, by the way,
Um,
that was better than any of the Star Trek conventions. I'm just gonna say right now.
Aw,
So
hear that? Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to doing it again.
Yes,
Did you get
that
tickets yet?
are the tickets.
They're
Are they?
not publicly available yet.
They're
Yeah.
privately available.
Yeah.
You know.
We're giving everyone who got tickets for last year an opportunity to.
Yeah. Just connect with us if you want to do it.
Yes, please. That would be
Yeah.
wonderful. Because I had gone, like, Zach was the first one that introduced me to going to a Star Trek convention. So that's the one I went to first. And then I think the year after was coming to your event. And your event was it really was familial. Like it felt like family coming into, like,
Yeah.
oh wow, this is really personal, really intimate, really great. It was a special experience, right? That's where
I kind of think of it like as and I don't know if you would agree with this term, Mark, but like a boutique convention, right?
Yeah.
It's smaller, it's more intimate, and it's a different experience than STLV, right? Which is STLV is so cool. I mean, that was, I've never experienced anything like that. It was exhausting.
very, yeah,
but in a great way, you know.
Yeah.
STLV
is great for, if you know, going and meeting some people you've never met before, obviously, networking, meeting other fans. I would say when it comes to meeting the actual, like, celebrities, quote unquote, that were a part of the franchise, that's great, other than they kind of herd you through when it comes to certain things. But the Shuttlepod Show live event that you guys did was not that way. It felt like, hey, you just kind of hung out and got to know people. You got to know the guests that you guys had, and the access that I know we had was unprecedented compared to anything I'd ever been to. And I've been to a lot of Star Trek conventions over the years, and they're not even on the same page, you know, when it comes to that. So,
well, you guys got on stage.
I know, that was awesome.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Thank you for doing that.
No, thank you for having us. That was wonderful.
Yeah,
absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. The relationships we made through our first live event are so special, and seeing those people again at STLV was so cool. And then seeing people I've never seen before that I've either, like, messaged with, or that, like, you know, their name just, you remember it from, you know, YouTube, and you're like, oh yeah, I've seen your name pop up during our premieres, and like these people just coming up to you saying how great the show is and thanking you, and like that, it's just something I've never experienced before. So, you know, that was incredible. I was like, I've never, you know, I just never experienced anything like that. Seeing people in real life that have been watching you come up to your booth and thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys were quote unquote vendors, but you really were celebrity guests there as well, just like any of the other ones.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
We just had, you know, our little team working for us. So sometimes they were the only ones at our table. But yeah, I look forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Are you gonna go to the next one, Chris?
I'm gonna try as best as I can. It's in, like, is it gonna be in August?
But STLV, that was in August.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Early August.
Yeah, I am gonna do everything I can to be at the next one. This year I had so much travel that I had to do for business. So I'm gonna definitely, because I love seeing you guys there, and that's the chance when I travel where I get to see Zach in person too.
I know,
yeah.
you guys are far away.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true.
It was so cool to know that you guys hadn't seen each other in so long until our live event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was at that point, Chris, so your guys' live event was February of 22, right? Last year, or was it this year, February?
It was this year, February.
Oh, it was this year, February. Okay,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. Yeah, okay, that's right. So February, it was 2023. I left in 2018. So yeah, it'd been 5 years, right, Chris? So
yeah,
a little over 5 years.
Yeah. So I mean, so for like you, Erica and Mark, that's the kind of the really special things, like you put on the live event. It's great, it's meaningful for people, but it's like behind the scenes, hey, this is also the huge thing that you're doing. It was like, yeah, that brought Zach and I together, right? That was like the reason, like, hey, Zach called me and he said, this is going on, can you come down? I'm like, yeah, yeah, let me check, and then I could come down. So that's kind of, you never know like what kind of impact you're gonna have like on people when you
Yeah.
decide to craft events. But that was a huge impact for Zach and I, just personally, being able to see
Yeah.
each other again.
I love to hear that. Bringing people together is like, I love doing that. Like just as a host, if I'm having people over or for work, right? It's like for me, it's so like, I don't know, it's so gratifying. So it's nice to hear that. And I'm glad you guys saw each other.
Yeah. It was wonderful. It was great to be in person. We see each other all the time over Zoom or talk on the phone, but
Yeah.
it's, as we know, in this day and age and post COVID, with all the Zoom meetings and Microsoft team meetings and stuff that we do in our professional lives, it's being in person. You can't beat that. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not the same seeing somebody on Zoom and saying hi as it is shaking their hand, looking them in the eyes.
It's not, and we talk about it all the time on the show, but that's kind of what's made auditioning so different. It's like, okay, you can send in the tape or even have a Zoom. It's usually sending in your tape, but you lose that in person experience, which like there's nothing tops that,
No, definitely not. So, okay, there's a couple of, I don't want to say random questions, but kind of random questions we want to ask you.
Okay.
So the first one would be, Chris and I always like when we have guests on to ask them, I don't want to say philosophical questions or things that maybe makes them think, really deep or whatever. But this is a question that I'm very curious about. If you could meet anyone in history, dead or alive, and have lunch with them or whatever, who would that be? If you could pick one or two people, maybe.
Oh, that's famous.
Anyway, it doesn't have to be famous. It could just be anybody in history that you can think of, dead or alive, that you'd like to have.
So when you say in history, you just mean anyone?
Anyone, yes. Anyone you can think of.
My dad passed away when I was in high school, and he would be my first choice to have lunch with.
Yeah.
That would be hands down first choice. And gosh, oh boy, beyond, this is a hard question. This is a really hard question.
Okay, narrow it down then to, if you could, a famous person. How about that? Like somebody famous in history. It's okay if you can't think of anybody right now, that's fine.
Why this keeps coming to my head, because it's not like I'm an obsessed fan of hers or anything, or like even I don't even know if I'd call myself a fan, but I, just in terms of Hollywood and the impact she had and Marilyn Monroe would be an interesting person to sit down with as a female who made such a name for herself.
Yeah.
I think that would be like, but I also think she had some drinking problems, and I don't know if she'd be sober during our conversation. But just, I guess someone like her that had, in the early days of Hollywood, as a female who made so much of a name for herself, that would be someone really interesting to talk to. I think so. Yeah. But
Chris, what about you?
Oh yeah, Chris, what about you?
Yeah, Zach, thanks. Yeah, I thought about that for a little while, actually, and the answer came to me. Erica, your answer was beautiful. So it would be my father.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's been gone from my life for much of my life. So I would want to go back and see him as a young man, because I'm kind of connected to like an idea, but that gift of self-knowledge, that Star Trek kind of explores that ideas, and different mediums explore that idea. But going back and meeting someone, learning who they were, but also like that helps you learn about yourself. So
Yeah.
that's who it would be.
Oh, dads. What about you, Zach?
As long as nobody promises to laugh when I say this, because I mean I'm dead serious when I say this. There's only ever been one celebrity who passed away that made me emotional, and that was Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. So somebody I grew up watching as a kid, really spurred my passion for reptiles and animals growing up. And so I always wanted to meet him. Like my mom and I always wanted to go to the Australia Zoo and meet him. And then, of course, he had that tragic accident in 2006, I believe it was, when I was in college with the stingray.
Stabbed by a stingray?
Yeah, stabbed by a stingray through the heart. And then they mentioned about, well, maybe if he left the barb in and didn't pull it out, he might have survived. But the natural reaction, if something goes into you, you rip it out. Anyways, so I always wanted to meet him because I just felt like the amount, because I'm an animal lover, right? I think a lot of people are. And so the amount of good that he did and continues to do in his legacy through his family is really impactful for wildlife and conservation and stuff. So it would probably be him. Yeah.
Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. Great answer.
Yeah. Erica, you had mentioned writing before. Well, actually, maybe this is more of a broad question, but any writers or role models that you've had, role models in creation or writing or directing and like all of that have influenced you?
For me, writing was more of like it wasn't because I sat down and read someone's work or watched something. It was more like a visceral feeling I had to like want to get these ideas in my head on a piece of paper. So yeah, I mean, sure, there's certain filmmakers I like I love Kubrick and I'm a fan of David Lynch, and but as far as like my desire to write really just comes from wanting to get like these ideas out of my head. Yeah. And it's
that fits your personality too.
Yeah.
You're someone who feels really passionately about things and people, and you really lead with that. You like to get your feelings out.
Yeah, I do.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's therapeutic,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, sure, I'm sure this happens to so many actors and so many people in this business, but like, and probably to Mark, I would guess, but like certain things happen during the day and they start inspiring some kind of movie idea in my head. And it's like, feel like I'd like to start doing this again, but I used to write down my ideas, right? Even if it's something I never touch, it's just to put it down. And it's not like whatever happened that day is exactly the movie idea. It's like that, just maybe that person or that little thing that just happened inspires a whole other storyline, right? So I don't know. Does that happen to you a lot?
I mean, when you do this professionally, you start looking at the world through the lens of using that as a sample to tell a story. Yeah.
For me, it's like, I think I've always been that way since I was a kid, right? I don't know. It's like,
yeah, you have the creative gene in you, right? There's that ability to create and perform and is there, speaking of performing, is there, if you could pick a role either in theater or film or otherwise that you've always maybe wanted to play but haven't yet, and someone came to you and said, hey, here's a choose your script or whatever, what particular role or would you want to play?
Well, an easy answer to that is I'd love to be in a Star Trek show.
Yeah.
But okay. So one thing, and this is not the main answer, the only role I want to play, but I think it would maybe be really fun to play like a detective. Maybe it's all the Twin Peaks I've watched. But I don't know. I think that would be a really interesting role to
Yeah.
play. Yeah.
Well, there's certainly no shortage of shows out there that have detectives in them, so that could certainly be an option. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I guess that's my answer for now.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Very nice.
I
know
mean,
you-
if
If
I
you
could,
were an actor.
yeah, if I could go back and do acting again, I mean, Star Trek would definitely be towards the top.
Yeah.
I think for me, anything that, you know, a role that shows maybe an arc of emotion.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when I was in high school acting, I was just up there hoping I remembered my lines, you know,
Yeah.
and trying to learn the techniques and stuff that our theater director taught us. I feel like now, with especially with more life experience, I have so much more I can draw from that would spur emotion, whether it's sad, happy, anger, you know, whatever that is, stuff to pull from and draw from. And I actually think of that. And like for you, Erica, in your acting experience, what, if you want to share them, what types of things have you been able to use to draw and pull emotion from in scenes that you've been in?
Oh. Well, yeah, I can answer that like kind of generally.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to this school called Playhouse West, which is an incredible school here in LA. It's Meisner technique, and they really taught you how to connect like what's going on in your real life to what is happening in a script. You know, they really wanted you to use who you are and what your own circumstances were in life to make your character come across genuine and real. So it was when you're practicing all the time and you're in class, it becomes very easy to just, you know, you almost have like a toolkit of like, you know, things that happened to you in the past or things that are happening to you right now and how they make you feel. And you're able to kind of connect those circumstances to whatever the script calls for, right? So, you know, there's been a lot of stuff from, you know, from being a kid to now, like across the board, that I've been able to use to try to understand what a character is experiencing, you know?
Yeah. And you have those experiences from life, right? That you've been able to pull from and say, yeah, I can use this to draw this emotion out, or use that to draw this emotion out. And I definitely didn't have that.
Yeah. What I don't do is try to create that in my real life. So that like, actors have literally told me that they're like, oh, well, it's fine that all this is happening because it's good for my acting. And I'm like, okay, but there's been times I always felt like someone was forcing drama in their life so that they could use it for their acting. And I don't think it really works that way. You can't really do that.
Artificial
you can try.
drama. Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, life's hard enough, you know. I really just don't try to create drama.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good question. I'm trying to answer it generally without telling you.
Of course. Yeah.
What?
No. That's what I meant. Like, obviously you've been able to take those things and have events that you can pull from.
Yeah, I did. And you know what? I think I always had like maybe it was because I was an only child, but I always had a like vivid imagination because I was alone a lot, you know, and I don't know, I was just alone a lot. So like my mind would always kind of wander. I kept myself entertained that way, you know, and so yeah, I forgot how that connects to what I'm trying to say right now. But anyways. Brain fart.
well, you know, when your mind does wander, it makes these subconscious, you know, connections to a lot of different ideas, you know, that start to solidify in your mind, and then you can pull them back later, right?
Yeah.
Relate it to whatever you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. Earlier you had mentioned the 165 Star project that you were working on, and then you have more than there's a couple different short films that you have, right? I think.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I made so I was creating this character named Rose.
Yes.
And I wrote about like a handful of monologues for her, and I was performing them in Manhattan when I was living in Brooklyn. And I wanted to create a movie around her, but I was doing it in this way where it's like, okay, first I'm going to write these monologues and perform them. Then I'm going to make like a poetic film to kind of explore her character. I had this idea of taking these different steps of creativity until I made the actual film or wrote the actual film. I was like trying to make art up to the piece itself, right? And so I had kind of written a poem from her perspective, and I filmed that, and I showcased that, and it got into a festival, I believe. And then as a producer, I helped someone else with a few of their films, but it wasn't necessarily my ideas. And then 165 Star came along, and my collaborator just sat with me, and he was like, oh, let's just do it. I like the idea. I want to make something. I think he was restless, and we had been talking about, I had already shot a few short films with him, and yeah, that was it. So just made it happen.
Man, that's great.
Yeah.
Have you guys publicly announced your dates for the next live event?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
April 12th, 13th, 14th.
April 12th, 13th, 14th.
And that's going to be down in LA again, right?
Yes.
Same place, Gary Marshall Theater.
Gary Marshall
Okay.
Theater.
There you go. Yeah. So if
We'll
you're watching or
see.
listening, come on out. If you didn't get to come last year, by the way, or this earlier this year, I should say, because by next year it'll be last year. Then you definitely have to make it out, because it was a wonderful event, and I'm sure you guys have even more amazing things planned for that are going to make it just as exciting, if not more, than it was this year.
I think so. We learned a lot, and I only foresee this to be even more fun. Right,
Yeah.
Mark?
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. More what do we have? Enchiladas?
More enchiladas.
More enchiladas.
There's nothing wrong. It's like more cowbell, more enchiladas, please.
More enchiladas. I'm sure, maybe we'll partner up with that tequila brand again and do little tastings. They were awesome. And I'm sure we'll have live music and staged readings, and yeah. Anything else? Anything you want to add to that?
It's gonna be like last time, but
Like last time, but better.
Last time, but there you go. Perfect. Perfectly summed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Erica.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's not say. I just want to say thank you so much for coming back on. But before we go, Chris, there's another question we have to ask, because I think I remember her answer, but
yeah, you can ask. Yeah, ask it, Jeff. She answered both. I think Mark and Erica answered last time. You're asking again so you can get the answer that you want.
Well,
how dare you accuse me of that, Chris?
I'm going to summarize this very, very specific, very straight to the point, right? I am going to go with the 90s. Ask the question, sorry.
Well, yeah, okay, 80s or 90s, best decade for movies. Clearly, you're going with the 90s again, but that's fine. I thought maybe since the live event, maybe you had thought about it some more and go, you know what? I think it was actually the 80s.
You know what? After the Robbie Duncan McNeil episode, and me being like, man, I loved Dawson Creek. And then he started talking about it, and I was like, he inspired me to actually sit down and watch it. And I binged. I had to stop, but I was binging Dawson's Creek, which was in the 90s. And it's so nostalgic for me, and I'm just like, in honor of Dawson's Creek, I'm going with the 90s today. But this is not my last time on the show. It could change.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to use some of that telepathy you said I had, Chris.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's okay though. I mean, there really isn't a wrong answer. Other than the 90s, there's not a wrong answer.
Yeah.
But anyways, no, that's great. But yeah, Erica, we loved having you back on with us. Thank you for coming and spending some time with us and talking with us and sharing stuff about your life and your career and about the Shuttlepod Show. It's been wonderful, and we look forward to chatting with you again in the future.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me on. Love you guys. And thank you for your help with the Shuttlepod Show.
Of course.
So much.
I mean, it's really like
we love the trivia game.
We love the trivia. You do such a great job. And it's always nice to bring you up and hopefully we can collaborate more in the future.
Yeah. That'd be wonderful. Yeah, we love it, and we love supporting you guys, and obviously we continue to wish you continued success and sustained success, if I can speak, moving forward. Because I mean, I obviously am looking forward to all the episodes you guys do, and with George Takei. Now, can you give us one little sneak at the time of this recording? One little sneak into his interview. Did we happen to get an "oh my" during the interview? Did that happen?
A lot of oh my's, but I don't know that any of them came from him.
Yeah. I don't think, from my memory, I don't think we did.
Okay.
I had considered asking him to do it as part of the promos.
Oh.
He and Brad were so generous with their time and good to us that I didn't want to,
Yeah.
He is so incredible. I am speechless. His stories are mind-blowing and like makes you put things into perspective. And I was holding back my tears the whole time because I was like, if I cry, I'm just gonna lose it. Yeah, I hadn't like felt that way. I had visited the Holocaust Museum in Israel. And that was the last time I was like felt that specific like heartache for what he had been through.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's had an unbelievable life. So I definitely look forward to hearing your guys' conversation with George and continuing to learn more about him.
Yes, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, it'll be great. All right. Well, thank you again, Erica, so much. We appreciate it. And thank you all of you who watch and listen to us all over the globe and the interwebs. We sure love doing this, Chris.
Yeah, thank you so much.
My favorite duo. All right, you guys.
Right there with Batman and Robin. All
right.
All right. Well, take care, everybody. Thank you so much as always. Be sure to go on to Facebook and Instagram. Check us out there and follow us as well as YouTube. And we'll catch you next time right here on the Random Redshirt Podcast.
You guys.